For 22 years, up until 1969, the U.S. Air Force carried on a project called Blue Book, which systematically listed, then presumably investigated, hundreds of reported sightings of unidentified flying objects. But Blue Book was discontinued because the Air Force said it found no real evidence that, one, UFOs existed at all, and two, if they did exist, that they posed any threat to national security. But Air Force involvement or not, presumably sober and rational people, each year by the hundreds, continue to tell us that they've seen something up there, and sometimes they even film or photograph what they've seen. 4 years ago, as an example, in Dayton, Ohio, newsman John Getter of station WKEF-TV made this film of what he thought was a UFO speeding away from a neighbor's backyard. He reported that it was white, that it made a sound like a low roaring, and that it sped away as he was getting his cameras ready. Well, ever since it became generally known that President Carter had once seen an unidentified object flying around the skies over Georgia, interest in this elusive topic has been revived. My first guest is none other than Academy Award-winning actor Cliff Robertson. He's just completed a 12-hour television special based on John Ehrlichman's book about Watergate, but Cliff is here to talk about something very, very different. He's been an eyewitness to a UFO. Cliff, welcome.
Thank you.
How you doing?
I'm fine.
Why don't you start by telling us about the incident?
Well, in your, you refer to sober and rational people. I know I'm sober, and I certainly was sober when I saw whatever it was I saw. I'm sorry I saw it because I had thought, like a lot of people, what would it be like to see something like that? I was always fascinated. But it's occurred to me that it would be really a delicate situation if you saw something that was so dramatic that, let's say, in the case of the young man that's going to be on the show later, you suddenly found yourself being looked at like you were weird or some kind of a kook. So I was always happy that I had never seen anything quite that dramatic. I simply saw something in the sky, and I'm a pilot and I've flown for many years. At the time, I remember saying, darn it, I wish I weren't seeing this, because for the rest of my life, if anyone asked me, I will be forced to tell the truth and say, well, yes, I did see something once, and I couldn't identify it. It was about 1965. I was in California, and I was out on the terrace, and I saw, a perfectly clear day, out over the Pacific Ocean, at what seemed to me as a pilot, an altitude, were it a plane, it would have looked as if it was possibly 50,000 feet in the air. It was obviously not a plane. It was of a metallic color. And it was moving across the sky at not a particularly fast rate. And I stopped and I looked at it, and I immediately, of course, thought, well, it's obviously a weather balloon, which is very prevalent all over America. People many times see weather balloons, and because a balloon will sometimes temporarily stand still and then the wind will whip it away, it will look like you know, a UFO darting off or something. So I looked at it, I thought, well, it's a weather balloon. And then it stopped, and I went back to my gardening, and then I looked up every 30 seconds or so, and it was still there. And then I got very curious, and I went in and I got my field glasses. So I watched this for about 10 minutes through the glasses, and then it did the thing that I've read since so many times. People say the same thing. It suddenly just darted, and it went up. It definitely went up from that already high height, and it was gone.
What in the world, or out of the world, do you think it was, Cliff?
I have no idea. It's unidentified because I checked subsequently. Well, I saw in the paper. A number of other people had seen the same thing that day. And Vandenberg had been asked, were they doing anything funny? And they said no, they had nothing in the air at all. So it was one of those, another one of those countless incidents that goes unexplained by, I hope, relatively rational people. I just say that I'm sorry that I saw the darn thing, because it's the first time I've ever been on television talking about it, and I know from now on there will always be a certain fringe group. There's always a reactionary group in every area. There's a reactionary group against people who say, hey, I saw something. and they say, well, I guess he had one too many.
We have been joined by Dr. J. Allen Hynek. He's a professor of astronomy at Northwestern University, and he is also the director of the Center for UFO Studies. He is also the publisher of the International UFO Reporter, and I should mention also that he served as a consultant to that Air Force Project Blue Book that I mentioned earlier for more than 20 years. Doctor, would you like to comment on what Cliff has just told us?
Yes, I found it very interesting, and he's one with a great many others. I think that in all my time with the Air Force, during which time I interrogated many hundreds of witnesses and read, of course, thousands of reports, that two statements predominate. One statement is, I never saw anything like this before in my life. And the second statement, almost as frequent, is, if I ever see anything like this again, I'm not going to say a word about it to anyone. So you're in good company.
Dr. Hynek, why don't you stay with us? We have some experts, including a man who says he spent 5 days in a spaceship as our next guest. And no, folks, he's not an astronaut. So stay with us. Cliff, thank you very much.
Thank you.